Half mortal, half mortal. Today we're looking over Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio, book 2 of the Sun Eater series. You should read this if you want more of the same, but I would say if you were more hesitating toward of the first book because it was a bit too slow paced, you're gonna like this more. This is more action packed, more fast paced, more top speed pacing. And again, this is a character study in the grandest of grandest space opera settings. Character study, a study of, are we products of our environment? What does it take for a man to change, to transform into something that he used to be against? And if you want the prose of a master, I think you should read this if that's the best way to go about it. Let me just read you a quote here. There's no morality in poverty. It is only that wealth gives the immoral greater opportunity for abuse. Sleep, so the chantry teaches us, is the half-brother of death. Having visited death before, I tell you, they are not even cousins. Rather, sleep is the nurse of life. For often in sleep, we are healed of the hurts we suffer, so find new life again. Love the twist on the sleep is the cousin of death. Shout out Nas. A lot to love in this book. Great entertainment, space opera, epicness, grandest of grandest scope. A lot to dive deep into here. Definitely one of my favorite series at the moment. But for a rating, I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. Now, I know a lot of people are quite crazy on this and gave it 5 out of 5. Maybe some people are still in between. I haven't seen a lot of those kinds of reviews, but I'm more on the greatness, but I cannot quite call this a masterpiece, in my opinion, for a couple of different reasons that we'll dive into here shortly. And I think a good way to start is actually going into the weakest category, in my opinion, which is characters. I gave characters 3.75 out of 5. The reason is, it's not because of Hadrian Marlowe. The reason is that this is a Hadrian Marlowe story. And that's kind of where it gets a bit tiresome, and I'm being nitpicky here because, again, this is an excellent book. This is a very good book. But because it's so centered on Hadrian Marlowe in himself is an amazing character. And I'm loving following the journey of his. I'm loving seeing the decisions he makes, how he's transforming, him philosophizing about different aspects of his life, the moral quandaries. There's so many different elements of his journey that are very interesting to take. But when we're talking about a science fiction epic, he does have a cool relationship with other characters, but there's not a lot of room for them. And as I am a character-first person, this is probably one of the first books I've read where when I don't have a whole cast of characters, I'm usually not so high on a book. And don't get me wrong, the side characters are good. Like they serve their purpose, but they're not excellent in my opinion. Hadrian Marlowe is absolutely an amazing character, but the half-mortal is just the center of the story, and that's okay, and that's an expectation you need to have. And so you have a large cast of characters, but on such a long book with so many different things happening, so many different narratives, so many different elements happening at the same time, then this, I think, can get a little bit tiresome. And also because it's an unreliable narrator focus, it can add a degree of that. So again, Hadrian Marlowe, this is an amazing character where you can see with your own eyes, like if you're kind of tired of this super, our character, he makes mistakes. Our character is not perfect. Our character is naive. Our character still is wrestling with of the struggles of having grown up in a noble household and integrating himself with people from all different types of background. Our character is highly idealistic, and our character has these righteous, idealistic values that perhaps are not the best way to go about it. Our character perhaps is going on starting to become more pragmatic instead of more righteous and idealistic. So these kinds of elements are a character being morally gray and seeing that transformation. It's an awesome, awesome character study. So again, 3.75 might be a little bit unfair, but I think as Hadrian Marlowe in himself, I would give him a 4.75. But as a series as a whole, I mean, this is a 1,000 page story, right? So in that sense, I don't know. For me, that was one of the things was that I was getting a little bit tiresome in this book specifically, especially because of its closeness to the first book in that sense. So again, it's still an excellent book, but for me, this is just the weakest category. And I think one of the most upfront things is that he is the center of the story. And if you have that expectation, you have that understanding, you will enjoy this book thoroughly more. And that goes, I think, into the highest category, which is going to be the prose and dialogue. Christopher Ruocchio is a master at his craft. He is a master in dialogue. I just read you a couple of quotes, but it's not just, it's him being able to describe things in a beautiful way, in a fresh way, the interactions, the little nuances, the world building, the dialogue, the inner dialogue of Hadrian Marlowe is beautifully written, melodramatic, purposely so, but it's just so engaging and it's so beautiful to read. And I'm just reading sentences I've never read before and just thoroughly enjoying them. Sometimes I'm reading them again. So Christopher Ruocchio is definitely one of my new favorite authors, or well, suppose he's not new, but one of my new favorite authors. I will read anything this man puts out. I've been reading his novellas for the Sun Eater series and I have not been disappointed. So in terms of prose, he's excellent and he's only been getting better. The only complaint I have is, it might just be a me thing, but I've been struggling a little bit with imagining some of the grandest of grandest things without doing spoilers, but there's something in this book that when they go somewhere and the author's kind of describing a grandiose, beyond imagination, large, let's say, ship. At times I had some struggles imagining these kinds of things just based on the description, and I don't think that's the author's fault. I think it was more of a me thing, but that was something I was struggling with sometimes, is imagining certain things, especially in the middle part of the book when it became more slow-paced and there were some interactions happening there that was, I can't go into spoilers, but that were difficult for me to imagine sometimes. So not a lot, but definitely at times there were some things that were hard for me to imagine. But again, book 2 is better than book 1. Christopher Ruocchio is getting better. I do see a similarity to Pierce Brown's increasingly awesome writing, improving book by book. And I feel like the same is happening here with Christopher Ruocchio. Each book he's getting better. Each book he's more astute. He's more overall way better writer as time is going on. So you see that vast improvement in this book, I think. And again, this book, to kind of divide, is if you liked the first, if the one thing holding you back from the first book was that it was a bit too slow paced and maybe not a lot of action, you're gonna love this book way more. This is a little bit of pacing in the middle, but it slows down quite a bit in the middle. But the last act of the book is, cinema, Sanderlanche, let's say. So in this sense, there's a lot, you're going to enjoy this book a lot more. If you liked the first book for what it is, you're going to have a lot to love here still, but perhaps the latter part of the book might be too action-packed for you, but I would say you're still going to enjoy it quite a bit. So to go next, we'll go to world building, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Again, the world Christopher Ruocchio has created here with the Chantry, the Empire, the Extrasolarians, the Howling, the different dynamics of humans, and all of these different groups, the way that they're intercrossing with each other. And I really love that in this book, so at the end of the first book, these characters are going on a mission, let's say, to find a planet. And so they have some interactions with some groups that we have only heard about. and the way that happens, and it dives deeper into the morality of these things and kind of goes deeper into, you would think that Marlowe would be more apprehensive about these things and more questioning, oh no, I'm doing the wrong thing here, like kind of sticking with my religion. So, and that just isn't the case. He actually himself is struggling with kind of reverting back to these chantry values. So anyway, there's some cool things happening here. The world has expanded vastly. So the human, the chantry, the galaxy, just everything goes bigger and beyond better, and the mystery of the first book is expanded. Everything is expanded and done in an awesome way, in a very interesting way, in an engaging way, a very exciting way. You're going to be on the edge of your seat trying to learn more. You want to learn more about everything. So that's super cool. I do wish we had some more of that, more of those elements, and I think that's what's setting up for the third book. You're going to see more. You're going to see more of that. That will lead next to, let's go to plot and structure, which I gave a 4.2 out of 5. The thing about the Sun Eater series is, this is definitely, for me, one of those books that as time goes on, it sits with me more. And that's because of the depth of this. The depth of Hadrian Marlowe, the depth of the decision making, the depth of the world and these different interactions, morality, all of these kinds of questions. A highly philosophical and thought-provoking book with a lot of different themes. I was not a big fan of the ending, without giving any spoilers. If you read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The ending did not feel cheap, but felt unsatisfying when I first started reading, and I'm like, ah. But as time has gone on, I'm like, wait, no, that was a badass ending. And the mystery of book 2, I'm really hoping that it has a satisfying payoff. I'm really, really hoping for that. So for 4.2 out of 5, there are some pacing issues, I think. Sometimes I think there's some problems with expanding the world building, but going with the plot. Like, I think that there can be a bit of a better balance there, and there is a middle part of the book where you're supposed to be like waiting with the character, and it's purposely kind of slow. But I had that same problem with book 1 with the archaeology. It felt like it was dragging on quite a bit, and I think there's a similar thing happening here where our characters are trying to learn more about what's going on, and that part dragged a bit for me. But I suppose it's more purposely done, and I think it's satisfying. It's definitely satisfying. This book is highly satisfying. This book is awesome. Definitely awesome. If you're a space opera fan, pick up this book right now. You will enjoy it. At the worst, enjoy it. At the highest, this will be one of your favorite books going on at the moment. So with plot and structure again, at first I didn't like the ending, but now that I've had some time to sit with it, I think, okay, I'm bought in. I've signed the max deal with Christopher Ruocchio. I want to see where this goes, and I trust him enough as a writer that this ending of book 2 will have a satisfying payoff, and it's not going to be cheap. Other elements, again, this book was much more fast-paced, and again, the elements at the end of book 1 where you had this interaction between the Chelons and the humans, and those like cultural aspects, there's not as much of that as I would like, but there's a lot of that with the extrasolarians. So like the chantry kind of based humans, and there is, Tavrosi and other kind of, identity of either group, kind of other species or whatever you want to call it, of humans that are interacting, but we don't really dive deep into those. But with the extrasolarians and like this kind of cyberpunk philosophical moral quandary of what does it mean to your soul when you're physically changing your body mechanically. It goes much deeper into that, and that was very fun to explore, and that's quite a big part of the plot. So that's a little bit more world building, but that was part of the plot. And again, the structure was good. I liked the pacing and the arc of the story, but sometimes I just had some trouble imagining certain things. And our character goes through some difficulties that have a satisfying payoff, and nothing feels cheap, everything feels earned. So again, that was all very fresh to read, and I read this book very quickly. And that kind of leads into emotional impact, themes, and thought-provokingness, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. The Sun Eater series is going to be one of those books, like, you should try to read it with a friend, because there's always going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot of different themes to explore. Again, as I mentioned, the world building of, wow, it's like so cool to, like, these mechanical aspects, or the moral philosophy of peace. Like, should you make peace with an enemy that has an ideology that's completely different than yours, or should you fight every battle? And this specific is very relevant to my work at the moment, and based on where I am. And this book has really provoked me on what does that mean. Is that, okay, you can come to the negotiating table with peace, but at some point you're going to have to be team this or team that. And if two kind of ideologies are clashing with each other fiercely, is there room for, I don't want to say mutual destruction, like there always should be peace, but an enforced peace where one person has power over the other, right? So these kinds of things are very, very fun and interesting to explore, and that was one of the reasons why this was very engaging, awesome to read, 4.2 out of 5, and that's kind of it. So let me know what everybody thinks. I had a great time reading this. So.